In my last Heistmeister devlog, I rather naively stated that I was done with engine development. I mean, the engine was feature complete. It did everything I needed. But I wanted to add some verticality. Up until now, the world was arranged on a single height level. Floor and wall tiles behaved differently and were drawn at different heights. To build a world with varying height, I took a different approach. The world is now made up of cubes, not unlike a Minecraft world. There are no longer walls or floors, but solid blocks. My collision code was easily modified to add this additional axis. This created a problem though. My previous sorting code, which worked great with one height level, was introducing a lot of errors. After looking into it, the solution turned out to be complicated, involving first creating a list of all the objects behind each object in the scene, and then using those lists to create a definitive draw order for the current frame. This took me days of beating my head against a wall and healthy doses of Googling. It paid off though. I don't see too many sorting issues now. With the renderer properly showing the level, I was able to throw together a quick multi-level map. Here's an example with an overhang the player can use to drop loot into the cart. See any problems here? It's really hard to tell where exactly the player is. With an isometric perspective, the player, or any object, doesn't actually get larger or smaller as he moves forward and back or even up or down in the scene. And so there's no way to tell the difference between, say, a player on the floor at a given location or in the air just a few tiles ahead of that location. So I added some lighting effects. There's a mix of pre-calculated and real-time lighting here. The world tiles are shaded as the level is loaded. Any tile with a solid tile above is considered shaded. Entities can be made up of multiple image layers, and I can decide which layers accept shading. For most tiles, the floor is shaded while the walls are not. This shading is a one-and-done operation. Moving entities like the player have real-time lighting calculations. First, they're shaded like the world tiles by checking to see if there's a solid world tile above. Second, a shadow is projected onto the highest solid tile below the entity. This shows the player exactly where they are on the ground at all times. It also makes it easier to line up that trick shot I showed earlier. Finally, I just wasn't happy with how I was treating the entities that were obscuring the player. Up until now, I was checking for objects roughly ahead of the player and not drawing them. This created an ugly sort of stair-stepping effect of objects popping in and out of view as you moved around. I didn't like it. To fix this, I first thought about how I was determining if an object was obscuring the player. My old calculations were using world coordinate space, which was perhaps a bit silly. You see, in the process of drawing each object to the screen, I have to translate those world coordinates to screen space. That is to say, I have to calculate the object's position on screen. Once I do this, I can check to see how close this screen position is to the screen center, and hide the object if it's too close. Then, I added an additional image layer to each entity to be drawn when obscuring the player. I created a simple wireframe version of each block with transparent sides. I still wasn't happy. The stair-stepping, while improved, was as distracting as ever. I also didn't like the visual effect of multiple transparent pieces stacked on top of each other. So, I took another approach. What if I drew all of the objects behind the player and the player himself into a render target called the background? Then, I render all of the scene's objects into a second render target called the foreground. I then use a circular shaped mask with a smooth fall off to cut a semi-transparent hole in the center of the foreground render target. Finally, I draw the background to the screen and the foreground on top. The result? A solid world with a circular punch-out showing the player through obscuring objects. Now I'm happy. Thanks for watching.